welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Friday, 14 February. I'm your host Daniel, and today we'll be covering at least 10 workers have been killed in Pakistan by an IED blast. Nigeria has approved a $200 million payment to fill the gap from US aid cuts. And Munich car ramming suspect had Islamic motives, say officials. So firstly, on Friday, an explosion occurred in southwest Pakistan near the Afghanistani border, resulting in the death of at least 10 labourers. The labourers were en route to a local market located in the volatile Balochistan province when their vehicle was struck by an improvised explosive device. Local officials and media reported varying death tolls, with some accounts stating 11 fatalities and others stating 10. The explosion caused numerous injuries, many of which were critical. The local village is situated approximately 160 kilometers east of Quetta, the capital of Balochistan. The attack has sparked an official investigation, though no group has yet to claim responsibility. The region, however, is known to be a hotbed for BLA militants, a group who advocate for the independence of Balochistan and frequently target security forces and non-local Pakistanis. The BLA is also opposed to Chinese involvement in the area, citing exploitation of natural resources without adequate benefits for the impoverished locals. In response to the attack, the country's Prime Minister reiterated his commitment to combating terrorism throughout Pakistan. So what? It seems that the security situation in Pakistan has only got worse since the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. And this isn't unexpected. While the US and their allies were in Afghanistan, terrorist groups in the region had a common enemy to focus on. Now they're gone, they likely go back to other grievances, including those against the Pakistani government. This is something that seems highly unlikely to just naturally die out, and also unlikely to be solved by Pakistani officials in the near term. As such, it is likely that attacks such as this will continue, possibly even increasing in frequency. And next, Nigerian lawmakers have approved an additional $200 million for the health sector in response for the suspension of US foreign aid, aiming to mitigate the impact on public health programs. This funding increase is part of Nigeria's $36.6 billion federal budget and is intended to purchase vaccines and medical supplies essential for the continuation of treatment and prevention programs against diseases such as malaria, polio, HIV, and tuberculosis. The budget approval comes amid concerns voiced by the chair of the House of Representatives, who highlighted the adverse effects of the US aid suspension on vulnerable populations affected by disease. The context for the budget increase is a significant policy shift in the US, where President Donald Trump has initiated a 90-day freeze on funding for the Development Agency USAID as part of broader efforts to reduce government spending. This suspension includes dismantling the agency, closing off its offices around the globe, and laying off staff. The impact of the decision extends beyond immediate health services, as USAID's contribution in 2023 amounted to over $600 million in health assistance to Nigeria, alongside support for humanitarian needs in conflict-affected regions. A federal judge has temporarily lifted the funding freeze, but the future of US financial aid and its distribution remains uncertain, stirring doubts about the sustainability of aid programs crucial for Nigeria and similar regions. So what? While this is likely quite devastating for Nigeria and other African nations, sadly, the US needs to prioritize itself. As shit as it is for countries that relied on the aid, the US has significant social problems at home, and it is rather irresponsible for them to spend US taxpayer money abroad while their own people suffer at home. Regardless, it is highly likely that the US will lose significant soft power as part of this move, which will likely be replaced by China, who will look to provide similar support in exchange for concessions. A tough but understandable move. And lastly, in a shocking incident in Munich, a 24-year-old Afghani man deliberately drove his car into a crowd, injuring 36 people. The suspect, who had been residing in Germany since 2016 as an asylum seeker, reportedly shouted Allahu Akbar, or God is great, during his arrest, suggesting that Islamic motive is behind his actions. However, Munich's prosecutors clarified that there is no evidence linking the attack to a terrorist organization such as the Islamic State. Despite this, the suspect admitted to targeting the demonstration intentionally and is being investigated for 36 counts of attempted murder, among other charges. The severity of the attack has raised considerable alarm, particularly as children were among those seriously injured. The response to the tragedy was marked by a visit from German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who attended a moment of silence at the scene and condemned the brutal nature of the crime. Steinmeier emphasized the need for justice and accountability under the law for those affected, including the children. Meanwhile, investigations into the suspect's background revealed a seemingly normal life in Munich, where he had a flat, a job, and maintained a pretty normal social media presence, including content about sports and religion. So what? While it is possible that this individual was encouraged to carry out this attack by online sympathizers of terrorism, it is unlikely that he was directly funded or recruited by a major terror group. It seems that his primary motive may possibly have been to avoid deportation back to Afghanistan, perhaps perceiving imprisonment in Germany as a preferable alternative. Regardless, this attack is likely to directly increase support for the AfD in the upcoming elections, potentially enabling them to achieve a much higher percentage than initially expected. Thank you for tuning in to the Intel Brief, your daily update on global geopolitics, brought to you by HM Intelligence. You can support the show by sharing it with your friends and leaving us a 5-star review. And if you're curious to learn more about intelligence, check out one of our courses in the description below. Thank you for listening. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you next time.